Okay, I just want to put together a little video of the install we've done of this Echo one. This is the Aqua-Therm 275, E275, one of the newer stoves they've got for right now. Used to have an old 150 that just got old and finally rusted out. It's about 20 years old. They have added fan to the front of it here, in addition to, go to the back. You got a second fan down here. I'll kind of turn my light on so you can see it well. Both fans come on at the same time. One blows from the front, one from the back. And I guess that's more efficient than the previous way. Circulator pump back here. That circulator pump, I put the new one on. The other one had been on there 20 years and was still working just fine. So you got some plumbing that you have to do here to put this together. I like to, you can see where the red pipes are. This is my overheat blow-off valve and pressure valve. You want to be sure that you've got those securely fastened to something, so if they should blow off, that you don't get scalded with steam, because this thing will be, 185 degrees and it would melt the skin off your face. So, got the hose attached here that you can fill. It's really not designed to be filled from the bottom, but it works just fine. This comes with an electronic thermostat, Aquastat, but I have the old analog one that's on here. It was what was on my other stove. It worked great for many years, so I'm just going to leave it. Pressure and temperature gauge, expansion tank. You got to have that just to keep the pressure even in the system. Up on top is a relief valve for water, for air, that if it builds up in the system, it'll release it. And then there's a T on top that you can put the chemical treatment in the water so that it doesn't rust as bad. It does come with a 6-inch, well, this is a double-walled stovepipe, so it doesn't look like 6-inch. The other one used to be 8. I did have to replace that because of that size change, but kind of good to have it all put together new anyway. I've added the exhaust fan. These are really the way to go, because when you open this stove up and you get smoke coming out of this, you want that smoke pulled out of your building, because it'll fill up your building in a short time. I installed an on-off switch for my front fan on here. Don't know if you really need to do that. I went ahead and put one on there. This is the main on-off back here. As you can see, both of those. Circulating pump, and then both the fans go on and off there. I put a on-off switch for my exhaust fan right here because it was just convenient to get to. You do need to install a main switch, and that's not a big deal. This comes with a wiring harness on it. The wiring was actually fairly simple. I put this thing together in a day. It tells you how to do it. It's not complicated. I thought it might be a little more difficult than it was, but it turned out just fine. The ash remover is right down here. I got a little bit of creosote that dripped on this, but that's got an auger in it. You just stick this little handle, it's over here, I've got it mounted on the wall. You just stick it in there and auger your ashes out. I like to turn my exhaust fan on while I'm doing that, and that works good. They've revamped the stove handle on this. It's a lot better. The other one I had a little tendency to want to leak, and with one of these furnaces, you really can't afford to have this thing leak any air, because if it leaks air, it continues to heat and it'll boil over, and it could damage your stove. Heavy unit, I don't know, over 1,000 pounds. Everything in the back here. I've got the water lines piped in back there. That's a little air scoop up on top up there. Again, it pulls the air off the system. And then this is all circulating and going through the floor into my house to a heat exchanger, which is just simply a radiator fan, goes in your central air blower, and it heats the house pretty nicely. And I like it. It works good. So let me open it up here, so it looks like inside. It's heavy duty hitch. I used it already, but I've cleaned it out. I've cleaned the ashes out of it. Good heavy duty grates in the bottom of it here that will, probably last forever. And I cleaned out some of the creosote that was left inside. It wasn't too bad. The door blows from over here on this side. You can put a lot of wood in this. When I had it running, I was throwing wood in it once every day and a half. Depends on how much you're using your furnace on the inside. But you can see you could put a nearly 4-foot piece of wood in there, and I keep mine cut much shorter than that because I don't like to carry something that heavy. Again, the latch here, and it's a good safety latch. It's kind of got a 2-stage on it so that when you open it, you don't get a blowback of gas from the inside of the furnace. I need to tape up my warning sticker. It's peeling off, but anyway, this whole thing, I spent a good week installing it. It takes some doing, but the biggest problem I had is this is actually about 38.5 inches wide. It will not go through a 36-inch door, which is what I had. Now the old one fit just barely, but this one would not. So I had to pull that wall off, take the metal off the outside of my building, pull the insulation out, and put it back. The way things go. We will stack all of our wood in here. This space that I've kind of cordoned off with some plywood. I can put most of 2 cords in here. What I really like about this system is this wood is inside. When the snow's blowing, I simply walk in here, open the door, come inside, shut the door behind me. The stove is, it releases some heat in here, so the building's heated. You just shut the door behind you, do whatever needs to be done, put as much wood in you need, check your pressure and your temperature, and your wood's dry. You don't have snow blowing down your collar. I see a lot of these furnaces that are designed for the outside, and I guess that's all fine and good, but when the weather's its worst is when you're going to use the stove the most. You're going to be outside freezing your hands and snow in your shoes while you're putting wood in those. But I mean, each to their own. If that's what works for you, that's fine. But I greatly prefer having the inside version that we've got here. This is just a lot easier. Big insulation blanket that's on it really holds the heat in pretty good. There's a piece to go on the back of it here, which I haven't yet installed. I just hadn't quite finished that part of it. But you can put a couple of buckets under your hoses or your blow-off hoses. That way, in case there is some water that if it should get too hot and it blows off steam, it doesn't blow it all over your floor. And I put a second one back there. Either pressure or heat can make one of these, let off some pressure. So that's most of it. These furnaces are not cheap, and when propane is inexpensive, an argument can be made that it's cheaper to buy propane, but propane doesn't always stay expensive, and I just like being able to cut my own wood. I use an inside wood stove as well, but I like cutting my own wood, have my own control on it. They're an investment, this is not an expensive unit. I think by the time you get your install equipment, your stovepipe and the exhaust fan and everything that, to get the smoke out of here, you're going to have $7,500 tied up in it. But it'll last for 20 years, so that isn't so bad. At least that's what my last one lasted. In the previous one, I didn't have this hood that picks up the smoke, and that was one of my gripes. I'd open this door up, and the smoke would come out and smoke you up in this, and you had to open the door and kind of let some fresh air in. This works really nice. You just open this up, I flip this fan on, and it just pulls the smoke right out. I've got it vented to the outside of the building. I just fixed myself actually what I used was a dryer vent, and I just fixed a dryer vent and connected it to it. They sell a kit to put that on there. Mine didn't fit the best. I had to improvise with it, but I got it to work, and I like it. It keeps the smoke and dust out of here. And when you're emptying your ash panel down here too, it's nice to have that smoke pulled up and yanked out of here. So that's about it. I've got mine piped with water right to it here, so I don't keep the water turned on. There's really no need to. I mean, once you get your pressure set on this, it'll stay. And then with the expansion tank, even if your temperature fluctuates, it stays pretty even on it. So that's the Aqua-Therm 275, and if you're going to install one, I think you can do it at home on your own. Takes a little bit of mechanical work, but most people can do it, and that's about half the price of the new gasification systems that are out there. One thing I didn't add was that this stove will burn wood. I mean, they're all designed to burn dry wood, but you can throw a little bit of wetter wood in this one. It burns it right on up. Really don't have too much trouble with it. The newest gasification, everything I read, they said if you put green wood in those, they're going to plug them up because they're a little more complicated system, and green wood is just not friendly to them. This one you really can get away with it. Again, it's not recommended, but I mean, and when you cut wood like we do, how many times do you have all nice dry wood available to you? Not every time. Now, I like to have mine cut ahead, and I try to, but there's times when I get some that isn't quite as dry as others. So this works great. You can just toss it in there. As long as it's hot, if it's the temperatures are cold, it blows enough air on it, burns it right up. No problems with it. I never had any trouble with the last one, at least. So, all right. Hope that is helpful. And if you like the video, you can like it and subscribe to the channel. I don't get into that stuff too much, but anyone that wants to certainly can. So, have a good day.